Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Helen Reid, the Chief Executive of Bristol Law Society, and I'm delighted to welcome James Smith of Quiss Technology to this session. And James is going to be speaking to us on the Microsoft Copilot Substack and telling us all about the high-level overview of that and the differences between some of the other AI things you've seen, such as Copilot, such as ChatGPT and Gemini as well. Because I think sometimes there's a bit of confusion as to what the other things can do and how they all compare. This session is going to be recorded. We can send you all the link afterwards. And again, any collateral that comes with this session will be forwarded to you then. We will please feel free to share that with colleagues within your organisation if you think it'd be interesting. And as I say, we've got a Q&A function on here. Any questions as we go along, please put them in and we'll pick them up at the end. But just want to hand over to James. Thank you very much. Quiss are doing a fantastic job. I think this is the fourth in a series of webinars we've done with them, and they're proving really popular, really valuable and practical. So again, at the end of the session, you'll get a feedback form. Please do give us your feedback. We're really keen to hear how you find this session and also what else might be helpful to you in the future. But without further ado, I'll hand over to you, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon all. I'll just share my screen with you. So we will have a look at Microsoft Copilot. So topics that we're going to look at today. So a high-level overview of Microsoft Copilot and something called Copilot Studio. A bit of an overview of the main differences between Microsoft's Copilot, ChatGPT, and Google's Gemini. We'll then have a look at some demonstrations of using Copilot within the Microsoft 365 apps. So using Copilot in Word, in Excel, in PowerPoint, and in Outlook. We'll also have a look at using the Copilot in Microsoft 365 in the web app. A few pointers on sort of prompting best practice and an overview of the data security considerations with Copilot. The section on the data security, I will be touching on this as we go through the whole session. Hopefully, as we go through this session, I should be able to answer pretty much the vast majority of the questions that you'd submitted. So let's have a look at Copilot and Copilot Studio. So Copilot. So Copilot it's conversational AI. It's built into Microsoft 365. So Copilot can access all of your data within SharePoint, Teams, your OneDrive, your Outlook mailbox, for example. So Copilot, it lives in what Microsoft term the whole 365 ecosystem. So, and its purpose is it's an AI assistant, and it's just for general tasks and office productivity. Copilot Studio is a more advanced tool. So Copilot Studio would generally be used by developers and organizations, for example, to create custom chatbots. So you might want to put a chatbot on your website for clients, for customers to ask questions. Copilot Studio would let you build a chatbot where you can then tell it prompts and responses to questions. So we're going to be concentrating on Microsoft Copilot rather than the Copilot Studio today. So moving along. So the differences: Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini. It can be really confusing as, well, which one should I use and what do the different AI models do? So Copilot is Microsoft's, as we've mentioned, built into 365. Its primary purpose is it's used for business tasks and productivity within the whole Microsoft 365 ecosystem, as I've mentioned. ChatGPT, there are two versions. There is a free and there's a chargeable version. It's primarily used for content creation, so things like writing, perhaps coding. And then Gemini is built into all of Google's tools. So as Copilot is built into Microsoft's stack, Gemini is built into Google's. So Gemini is really good for creative tasks, things like writing, brainstorming, and Gemini can access all of the files within Google Docs and Gmail. So Copilot can access everything in your 365 stack. Gemini does the same within Google's tool stack. So we'll have a look at some examples of using Copilot in Microsoft 365 apps. So here's some examples of where you might use it. So within Word, you might ask it to detail headline topics from a document. You might have a lengthy document and you want it to create you a sort of a concise summary of it. You might even want it to create you a document based on a particular subject. In Excel, you might want it to create you some formulas or to visualize some data to create you a chart. You might want it to format content. In PowerPoint, you might want to create a presentation from a document, or you can ask it to create a presentation and give it the subject you want it to work on. Outlook, some common ones, a really lengthy email chain. You can ask Copilot to summarize it for you, save you the time of reading through a lengthy email conversation. You can also ask it to do things like draft up replies to messages. So if I just come out of this and we'll have a look at Word. So within Word, so those examples detail the headline topics from a document. Now I've got some example documents. As I'd mentioned, Copilot has access to all of the data that you personally can access within your 365 environment. So if you've saved files in SharePoint, in your OneDrive, if you've saved files in a folder within a Teams site, if you can access it, so can Copilot. So I've got some demo documents that I'll use for this session. So I've got this document called How to Buy a House. So because I've got Copilot running, I'll just zoom into a single page. So first thing Copilot asks me as soon as I open it is, do I want it to create me a summary of this document? So if I expand this out, and I can expand it out further, Copilot will read through the entire content of this document, which at the moment, it's a 10-page document. Copilot has now created me this little concise summary of it within a few headline points. What you'll see within this is anywhere that there's a number, it's showing me where it found this information within my document. Now, I don't have to actually open this document to do this. So I'm going to close this. From my blank document, I can use Copilot. So Copilot within Word, I can tell it, I want to write an article based on a file. I don't need to tell it where that file is. I just need to tell it the name of it. I can ask it for some insights from a file. I can ask it to create me an outline. So with my prompting, just to save you the pain of having to watch me type, I'm just going to copy and paste them from a document that I've got. So I'll just copy my prompt. So what do I want it to write? I want it to write a summary of the How to Buy a House demo document. As I say, I don't need to tell it where this document is. I just need to tell it what it's called. When I press on to generate, Copilot will go off. It's found the document. It will read through it and it will write up a summary for me. So, and with it being conversational, so it then even gives me a prompt to say, do I want to make this is okay, but do I want to make it more formal? So I might actually ask this. Actually, I don't want it more formal. So I'm going to ask it to say, actually, this is okay, but I want you to include bullet points for each section. Click onto the arrow. Copilot will go off and it will change what it's done. And as you can see, it then generates bullet points. And I can keep asking it questions and I can keep giving it more prompts. So as an example, make this more professional, make it less formal. So I can keep going through. So I might say, actually, oops, if I could type, say, actually, that's too many bullet points. Reduce the number of bullet points. And I can keep iterating through and it will give me a more concise breakdown of it. Now, there are a couple of things just to make you aware as I've gone into this and you start to see what Copilot can do. There are some, I want to say, myths or misconceptions around Copilot and AI in general, whether it be ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot. The main one is AI is nothing to be afraid of. AI, and certainly Microsoft Copilot, it isn't going to take people's jobs. It's not going to replace you as a person. The whole premise of it is it in its name. Copilot is exactly that. It's a co-pilot. It's your assistant. It's there to help you. It's not there to replace you. So if you think of Microsoft Copilot as your own personal AI assistant. So just as I would a real person, I told it initially, I want you to create me a summary of this document. Copilot goes off and does it. I can then, in a conversational way, I can then say, as I did, okay, add me some bullet points. It created bullet points. I can then ask it to refine it further to say, actually, that's okay, but reduce the number of bullet points. And you can keep refining it by just giving it more prompts. Once you're happy with what it's done now, I can say, okay, keep this. It's generated my document. Now, I'm going to clear this document and I'm going to ask Copilot to draft me a document. So what do I want it to write? So as the next session that we're going to be running is going to be on track changes, I'm going to ask Copilot to write me a document that covers word track changes. Oops, if I could spell. So I want it to, oops, that should say concise. I want it to write a concise document covering the main points of using word track changes. Copilot will go off and write this detail. Now, the thing to note with this, what Copilot hasn't done here is it hasn't just gone off and trawled the internet to find information on track changes. What it will have done, it will have looked at the data that we've got within the Quiss 365 environment to see if it can find detail on this. It will also review any internal help and it will pick up parts from the web. Now, it's generated my document, really quite nice, clear layout. One of the most important things with Copilot, and this applies whether it's Copilot with Gemini, with ChatGPT, is this little comment at the bottom. The AI generated content may be incorrect. This is why Copilot will never replace you. This is probably one of the most important things to note with it is never just blindly trust what AI has generated for you, because it's not necessarily going to be 100% correct. The other thing that it may do, certainly when it's looking at your internal data, is if you've got client information and you ask it to generate a document based on a particular topic, it will use that information. What you may find is Copilot or AI may pull some information that is specific to a particular client and include it in your output. So you could find you accidentally share some confidential information or some intellectual property rights for a particular client. So one of the most important things is, while it is really helpful and it's my assistant, it is a case of whatever it produces for you, just double check it. Okay, so I can ask it to write a document. I can ask it to summarize an existing document. So a couple of examples of using Copilot within Word. So if I close this, and I don't need to save my changes, we'll have a look at a couple of examples of using Copilot within Excel. So I've got this Excel file, this creating pivot tables. So with Excel, oops. So for example, I might want Copilot to look through my data. And in this case, I'm looking at this order total column. And what I want to do is I want to pick out any entries in my order total column that are above £500. So I want to pick out the big spends from this information. So I could manually go through and find them, highlight them, for example. Alternatively, I can ask Copilot to do it for me. So under the Home tab over on the right, I can open up Copilot. And once it opens up, it will give me some suggestions. So do I want it to create formulas? Do I want it to summarize it with a pivot table or create me a chart? Do I want to apply color formatting? Do I want to sum values based on a particular criteria? So what I want it to do is I want it to, so I'm going to say review the order total column. So I want it to highlight any entries above. So I want them shaded green with bold text. So Copilot will go off and review my information. And it comes back with, it's looking at the range A1 to G54, which is my range of information, and a cell value that's greater than 500. So it tells me it's going to apply the following to cells in the column because I told it order total. It's going to make it bold. It's going to make the fill color green. The font color will be black. It gives me a little preview. Again, there is this note that AI generated content may be incorrect. So again, it is one of those things of just double checking, is this exactly what I've asked it to do? Because if it's not, I can ask it again. I can go through this iterative process of asking and refining. In this case, I'm going to tell it to apply this. And it goes through and it's applied it. So every entry in my order total column that was above 500 has been formatted in green and the text is in bold. Now, what Copilot has actually done is not only has it gone through this column, picked out the entries that are above 500 and shade them as I'd asked it to. What Copilot has actually done is it's used an Excel tool called conditional formatting. So with conditional formatting, it will monitor the content of this column and any figure that goes above 500 will automatically be formatted green shading, bold text. So if I go and change one of these orders, let's change this one, 105.60 to 605.60. It's automatically formatted it. So what Copilot did isn't a one-off. I select all of these. What it's actually done is it saved me the time of going and finding out how do I use conditional formatting because my numbers are going to be changing. It's done it for me. If I go into conditional formatting and I go and manage the rules, it's written me a rule on this spreadsheet. Any cell value that's above 500, I want it formatted like this. Okay, so this is where Copilot can come into its own on a day-to-day basis. So summarize a document. I don't need to learn conditional formatting in Excel. I can ask Copilot to do it for me. So one of the most common questions that we're asked regarding Copilot is, what is the number one command or task that you would use Copilot for? It's one of those things of there isn't a right answer for it. It's whatever you want it to do. It's whatever you find most useful. If you're working with a lot of Word documents, the most sort of useful one may well be summarize this document. I've got a 50-page long document. I just want a key summary from it with a few bullet points. May save you hours of reading through documents. That could be your number one go-to. It's a game changer. Could be, I work with Excel, but my Excel skills aren't great. I can use Copilot to do things like this. Again, it could be a complete game changer for you rather than you going, I have to manually read through this column and go through and hope I don't miss one and then hope the figures don't change. I can ask Copilot to do it. It'll do it for me. Now, another example of Copilot within Excel. So I've got this list of orders. I've used it to create some conditional formatting to pick out any high spend order totals. I've got a separate sheet though that picks up the order reference and tells me its status. So has it been invoiced? Is it pending? Is it been approved? Within this sheet, I might want Copilot to say, well, okay, I need to know, has this order reference, what's the status of it? I don't want to keep having to flick backwards and forwards. So I'm going to ask Copilot, and I'm just going to copy and paste this one. So I am going to ask Copilot to say, I want it to add a new column named status for each order reference by cross-checking the corresponding status in the references sheet. So we will come on to prompting shortly, but one of the most important things is to be concise and to be clear in what it is that you want. So I'm telling it, I want it to add a new column. I want the column to be called status. And for every order reference, I want it to cross-check the corresponding status in the references sheet. So ask Copilot to run this. And it will go off and work on it. And what it's doing is it's going to generate me a formula to do this. So in a few seconds, it then tells me. So in my Copilot, it tells me it's looking at this data, the status. It tells me it's written me this new Excel function called an XLOOKUP. So it tells me what it does, shows me what the formula is it's written, gives me a little preview of the results. Again, AI generated content may be incorrect. There is also the option to say, well, actually, give me another suggestion, because it could be, actually, that's not quite what I wanted. In this case, it's exactly what I wanted. I could tell it, I want to insert that column for me. tells me it's inserted into column H. There is the option I can say actually undo that, but click back onto I've now got my new column. If I click onto these, it's written me my formula that takes the order reference from this sheet, goes and looks it up in my references and returns the status figure. Again, I didn't need to go and learn the Excel XLOOKUP function. I just tell Copilot, this is what I want you to do. It is then just a case of just double check, is this correct? And it's just a case of, I can just quickly sense check. I can go and check one, jump across and double check. But it's saved me possibly hours of trying to understand how does this XLOOKUP function work. Copilot's done it for me. Okay, so a couple of examples of where you can use it within Excel. So if I close Excel and we'll have a look at PowerPoint. So using it within PowerPoint, let me just get so if I just open up PowerPoint, open a blank presentation. Just bring this over. So Copilot within PowerPoint. So I've got a few different options within PowerPoint. It works in a similar way to the way that I'd used it within Word. So as an example, if I open up Copilot within PowerPoint, or there's a little prompt just above. So do I want to create a presentation about a particular topic? Do I want to create a presentation from a file? So in this case, I've got that how to buy a house document. So actually, I want to create a presentation based on the content of that document. So if I open up Copilot, and it will give me some examples. Do I want to create a presentation? Do I want to create a presentation about, and I can give it the topic that I want? If I've got an existing presentation, just like I did with the Word document to summarize it, I can go and look at to say, in this case, are there any dates or deadlines? What are the key slides within this slide deck? I can even set it to say, I want to generate an image of something to use in my presentation. So I'm going to say, I want to create a presentation from a file. So when I tell it I want to create a presentation from, all I would use, if I use a /, I can then start typing the name of a document to go and find. In this case, it's picked up this how to buy a house demo because I've used it recently. So I'm going to use this one. And I can send this. So Copilot will then go and work on this. It will go and find that file. So it'll generate me an outline. So it will go and pick out the headline topics from my document. It will draft up a presentation for me. So in a few seconds, it will give me my initial draft. As you can note, it will also add me some speaker notes as well. Okay, so then it gives me an overview of what it's done. So it's drafted 59 slides and it's made some changes based on my document. It's included speaker notes. It's added images to make it more engaging. It's automatically applied layouts. It tells me I can use the designer for adjusting layouts. Now, it's applied a particular design. If I'd got a corporate presentation template, I could just apply my corporate template to it. So it's created my agenda, an introduction, and for some, it will go and find stock images that match the content of the slide for me. So let's have a look at a local authority search. It finds an image that's relevant to the text within here. Again, I can ask it questions about this presentation. It's included speaker notes for me. So the most important thing is this AI generated content may be incorrect. So although it's created me 59 really nice slides with lots of detail, I would still need to go through and sense check them that it is actually correct. But what it has done is saved me an awful lot of time of creating my presentation outline just based on a document that I've got. So let me close this and I'll just create a new blank presentation. So the other thing that you might want it to do is create you a presentation based on a particular topic. So rather than a document, so I'll open up Copilot and I want it to create me a presentation. So I want it to create me a presentation. Oops, covering the key points to so quite a simple one. Create me a presentation covering the key points to note in Copilot prompting. As we're using Copilot, I'll ask Copilot to pick out the key points that I might want with prompts. So it will go off and look through. It's generating my presentation. So it will go and look through files that I've got. It will also pull information from the web as well. It gives me my key points in Copilot prompting, even gives me a subtitle, creates me an agenda, an overview of Copilot's features, what its core features are. So the natural language processing, one of the questions, just as I'm on this this particular slide, of one of the questions that somebody asked is which language models does it use? It uses GPT-4. Any integration, best practices, clarity. So being clear, specify. As I'd mentioned, this iterative approach of just because it doesn't get it right first time doesn't mean give up. You can just keep going back and prompting it and giving it, can we change this? And it will do it for you. Okay. So that's within PowerPoint. Again, really, really simple. If you've got a document with a series of bullet points, you want to create a presentation based on it, Copilot will do it for you to give you your presentation outline. You can then go through this iterative approach with it and change it. Okay, let's just close PowerPoint. And I'll have a look at Outlook. So I've got, in Outlook, I'm going to open up an email. So this is discussing the next KISS webinar. So for example, I've just been copied in onto this email, or it may be I've been out of the office for a few days. I've picked up this email chain. I don't want to sit and read through all the different messages. So with Copilot, I've got this option to say, just summarize this email chain. And it will go through and it will read the whole email chain, and it gives me a really nice simple summary of the next webinars, the 27th of February. It's going to cover track changes with some additional topics. Claire's confirmed the date and is drafting the literature. So if there were things like there's key dates, it's picked out key dates from the conversation. Again, there is this thing of, I may want to just double check this, but it has saved me the time and effort of reading through all of this information to pick out the key points from this ongoing conversation. You can also use Copilot, for example, to say, I want draft me a reply to this message, make it informal. It will create you a draft reply. But this certainly for me personally with Copilot is one of those. I use it most days. I go and pick up a lengthy email chain and it's, oh, actually, have I got time to read through the 20 messages in this conversation? I use this summarize all the time just to give me, okay, just give me a high level overview of what is this conversation all about, pick out key dates. This one for me it's a game changer. Okay, so a couple of examples around the using Copilot within Office apps. Now, let's close this. There is also Copilot within the 365 apps. So it also sits, I wouldn't say outside of the apps, but it sits in your 365 apps that you can use it on its own. So I've just gone into 365, I've gone into Copilot. Now, there are two forms of Copilot within here. So I'm in Copilot Work, or there's Copilot Web. Copilot Work is looking at all of my internal KISS-related data, my mailbox, etc. A common one, it's gone and looked at my calendar and it's telling me you've got a meeting tomorrow that's on an IT discussion and a dictum and demo. Help me prepare for it. It will go and read through my emails. It will look at this appointment and it will pick out, if there's been an email conversation about this upcoming meeting, it will pick out relevant points. Stay informed. What's the latest from, I've been interacting with Rebecca. I can say, okay, what's all the latest information from Rebecca? Organize it by emails, Teams chats, and files that she's sent to me. I can ask it to go and track industry news. I can ask it to help me learn about a particular topic. As I'd mentioned, all of this is within my internal Microsoft stack. So anywhere I've got access to within SharePoint, within my OneDrive, within Teams, Copilot can go and find information within there. Okay, now some of the things that I might want it to do. I might ask it, let's say, for example, I'm going to just copy and paste a prompt here. So what I'm going to ask it to do is go through my emails over the past week. I want it to create me a table of actions, including whose action it is, the person that assigned it, when it's due. I need it to have a good put my teeth in and try again, a good structure, because I want to organize my day, and I tell it, and be concise. I don't want a lengthy response. So it will go and comb through my emails over the past week, and it's picked out, here's some actions: to run another test, send an overview of the track changes session, draft a statement of work, confirm availability for a call with somebody. Somebody wants a Copilot training session, run a short session on dictations and now forms. If it's picked out any dates, so the overview of the track changes session before the 27th of February, so it's picked up, there's a key date linked to this one. Confirm availability, somebody had mentioned in it, early February. So I can then iterate through this further. I could say, okay, can you go back and look? Are there some missing due dates? Summarize the most urgent things. Filter things that have been assigned to me. Okay, so again, it's one of those. This could be the one key thing that you would do daily with Copilot that's just going to change your working life. Other things that you might want Copilot to do, and this is where Copilot can link with Teams. One of the questions that I'd noted from a legal perspective is, can you use Copilot to almost to minute meetings and summarize advice that's been given to a client? And the answer is yes, you can. You can ask Copilot to take notes within your meeting, and it will draft up. It will even include things like tasks that have been assigned to somebody, things that have been agreed, key dates, etc. So the answer to that is yes, you can. You can ask Copilot to effectively to minute your meeting. As it goes along, you get to the end of your meeting, Copilot has produced all of your minutes and the output from your meeting. Other things that it can do, and here's an example of this. So I missed a Quiss Digital Academy training webinar. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in so that we can see. So, and this is a couple of months ago. So there was a Quiss Digital Academy webinar on Microsoft Excel, the if function and conditional formatting. So I was invited to this meeting, but I couldn't attend. So I want a summary of it. I want the date and time, the organizer, attendees, details of meeting notes, any follow-up tasks, the key discussion points, and I want to format the attendees and their role in a table for me. So quite a complex task for it to go and find that meeting and pull out all of this information. So it goes and finds the meeting, and it then generates me a summary of it. So it tells me it was back in September, 1 till 2 p.m. Who was the organizer? Attendees. Meeting notes of what was discussed, any key discussion points. Were there any follow-up tasks? And it would give me the option. I could just copy and paste this. The other thing that it's found is, were there any files that went along with this? So it's found the actual meeting. There was a document linked to it, the if function. There was a PDF on conditional formatting. So not only has it gone and found the meeting, it's also found documents that were used within that meeting and included them in my summary. Okay. One of the other things that I might want it to do, it's a quick and simple one, and that is, I want to set up a meeting with somebody. So I'm just going to copy and paste this prompt. So Sabrina Griffin is part of the Digital Academy teams. So I'm telling Copilot, I want to schedule a meeting with Sabrina today. Can you suggest any specific times that we're both available? We'll need around an hour. We're going to discuss some upcoming training tasks. So it will go and check both of our diaries. It will then find, are there any time slots available? And in this case, it tells me between 2:15 and 2:30 and after 5:30. Not a lot of help really for today. I could then go back, as you can see. Okay, is Sabrina available tomorrow morning? Suggest some alternative times if these don't work. Again, I can go through that iterative process and just ask it again. So, is Sabrina available tomorrow morning? It's going to go and check Sabrina's calendar. So it can't work out her availability. Is there anything else that I can ask? It can help me with. So within this, I can check people's availability. I can use it to review meetings that have happened in the past. In this case, even if I didn't attend it, the other thing that I can ask it to do is, for example, I want a document. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. So I want a one-page template that I can use to take notes for a meeting. So I want sections for the date, the topic, the key points, and action items. I can ask Copilot to produce this for me. There we go. So my meeting notes template, the date, the topic, key points, action items and due dates. I can copy this, paste it into a document. It's generated me a quick document. Okay, so there's some examples of using Copilot. The web, as you can see from this, I'm going on holiday. I want some tips on interviews. I want to perform a search. So web search will go out and search the web. Work is based on my files that I've got access to. Most important thing to note with work, from a security perspective, Copilot uses Microsoft's enterprise level security. So for example, help me prepare for this Bristol Law Society webinar. Anything that I prepare in here will never leave my 365 domain. It doesn't publish it onto any public domain. It doesn't share that information with Microsoft. So from a security perspective, anything that I do within here stays within my 365 ecosystem. It's not shared externally. It's not shared with Microsoft either. Okay, so we'll have a look at prompts. So just some points. So clear and concise prompts. So be clear in what you want. At the end of the session, there will be some links to some prompting training that you'll be able to reference. Don't be ambiguous. So it helps AI grasp what it is that you intend to do. Well-crafted prompts. So it is a case of be concise, but be clear in what it is that you're wanting to do. Use keywords. So for example, with some of mine, I want it in a table. Tell it, if it's creating you a document, I want it in a table. I want bullet points. Very often providing context. So it will help you get more precise results. And again, going back to combining keywords. So it doesn't just, as I've mentioned, it doesn't just go off to the web and find information. It actually looks at the large language models and it very cleverly collates words together. So if you give it specific keywords, it can combine those to go, okay, I can generate a sort of a sentence or a paragraph out of this that does actually make some sense. As I've mentioned all the way through, the iterative refinement. So it is a thing of just because it didn't get it right first time, that's just like if you had a real assistant sat at the side of you, asked them to do something, they didn't quite understand what you'd asked. It's produced something, but you go, that's not quite what I wanted. With Copilot, you can keep going back and asking it to tweak the results, and it will do it for you. And the more you do it, the better it gets at it. So examples of prompts. So as I'd mentioned, from my emails over the past week, I want a table of actions. So the art of creating perfect prompts, Microsoft term it this GCSE. So the goal, what is it you want it to do? So example, I wanted a list of 5 bullet points. So give it some context of why do you need it? It's for a meeting with a client. I'm focusing on the current state and they're looking to achieve something. The source, so go and look through my emails, go and look at my meetings, look at this particular file and what you expect it to do. The other thing to notice is things like, I want a professional tone, I want it to be concise, I want it to be friendly, I want it to be informal. Tell it how you want it to produce the output. So important things are, what is it that you want? Why do you need it and who's involved if there are other people? Where do you want it to go and look for the information? How do you want it to present it when it returns it? Okay. So moving on to Copilot data security. So as I've mentioned, Copilot, it uses your existing 365 access permissions. Some points to be aware of though. If you as a user have got access to somebody else's shared mailbox, Copilot has also got access to that shared mailbox. So from a security perspective, it is one to bear in mind. Effectively, if you can access something within your 365 environment, so can Copilot, even if that thing that you can access is somebody else's shared mailbox. As I've mentioned, the data isn't published publicly or stored by Microsoft. It is all kept within your own Microsoft 365 ecosystem. However, some points just to be aware of, and this is probably aimed more at if you are looking at implementing Copilot within your business. Our suggestion from Kiss is don't go and buy licenses for everybody. Set up a relatively small pilot group and buy perhaps 5 or 6 licenses and trial it. The reason that we say this is one of the biggest fears that comes with Microsoft Copilot, AI in general, is the fear of we issue this to all of our staff. Somebody then goes and asks Copilot to detail information on the salaries of everybody in the business. If for some bizarre reason that person in the long distant past has been given access to a file or a folder that contains the salary details of people in the business, they may not know that they've got access to it. Copilot will go and find that information and it will report on it. So if you're looking at implementing Copilot, one of the biggest security things is just double check what can people access at the moment, because whatever they can access, so can Copilot. So sometimes it's around sort of double checking security settings, which is why we generally recommend buy half a dozen or so licenses, trial it, because you may find some people love it, some people go, I just can't get on with it. Rather than just spend money on a license for somebody to say, this is pointless, trial it, move the licenses around people to see who it works for, who it doesn't. Okay. As mentioned, there are some resources that will be sent out afterwards. So there's a Copilot lab from Microsoft. There's some scenario libraries. The Microsoft 365 Copilot Quick Start training. It's free online training. The thing to double check is with these, double check the start time, as these sessions are not GMT. They're all different international date and time. So it's just a case of just double check that you're not signing up to one that actually starts at 3 a.m. GMT. Okay. I personally have done these and they're really, really helpful for helping you create effective prompts. Okay, just to cover off a couple of the other questions that I was asked. One was, certainly for law firms, can Copilot interact with our case management system, document management system? Straight off the bat, unfortunately, the answer is no, it can't. There are what's called Microsoft Graph connectors that may be worth investigating that will allow Copilot to access data that's outside of your 365 environment. Whether there is one for your specific case management system, document management system, I wouldn't be able to advise, but it may be worth asking them. Okay. Any other questions that have come in through the session?
Yes, they have. Yes, we've got the Copilot with management systems. We've just answered that. Again, I think in terms of licenses, just now there was one: is Copilot standard Microsoft for all Microsoft products? Clearly not. There's obviously some levels there, isn't there, as to of the packages as to what it's about. And again, I'm guessing that's covered in also the first webinar that we did as well.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, so depending on what you've got, you may have to purchase that. I don't know whether that's whether you know the how much it costs on an individual basis, or whether it's part of a package.
Copilot licenses, if I remember correctly, they are around £20 per month per user, which is why we advise buy 5 or 6, move them around the business rather than purchase them for everybody.
Yeah, that's fine. Somebody's saying I can't see the icon within any of the home tabs of each application. How can I access it? That's probably because they don't have the license,
It
I'm
is,
suspecting.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Um, um, So very interesting. Does this mean that it's creating minutes of team meetings? If these were not recorded at the time, presumably it cannot do that retrospectively. I'm guessing if you're in a team meeting, you'll naturally get a transcript and a summary, but I suppose that's a general thing. The point about Copilot is you could specifically ask it to focus on certain things, couldn't you, within taking the minutes?
Yes, yes. So within the meeting, if you within a Teams meeting, if you turn on transcription, you can then ask Copilot to go and interrogate that transcription, and it will create your summary of everything that was said. So it's just a case of within your Teams meeting, just make sure transcription is on. Copilot can then go back and reference it afterwards, or you can set it to listen as you go through your meeting, and it can give you your summary at the end.
Great, that's fantastic. And then just one more. I think when you were doing the section on Word earlier on, one commented, it looks like the documents you are creating are using US spellings. Is that a default, or can you change it to UK spelling?
You can change it to UK.
Great,
It was the documents that I was using that were US.
lovely. I think. Oh, and does it work with Adobe, or how does it work with Adobe?
It can read content. So if you've got an Adobe PDF file, it can read content. So for example, with the PowerPoint, I told it to look at a Word document. If you've got an Adobe PDF, you can tell it to go and read that, and it should be able to read it.
Great, and I'm guessing as well. Just following on from that, it's reading from documents rather than, say, a video content. You'd have to have a transcript in order to do that. It wouldn't just listen to the video content.
Yes, yeah, it's effectively it's reading the text in the document.
Yeah, lovely. I think that covers off all of the questions. Yes, I think that's right. I think everything else we've covered in the course of the session.
Excellent.
James, thank you very much. I personally found that incredibly useful. I'm going to have a look and see whether I have the license, and I've also got meetings this afternoon, so I'm really keen to give it a bit of a play, but I'm going to have to defer that. But thank you very much. I hope everybody found that session useful. Please do fill in the feedback forms when you exit out of this. We'd really like to know what you thought about the session. If there's anything else you need, the team at Quiss very happy to talk to people outside of this webinar if you'd like to explore this or any of the other training that they can provide in the legal sector. They're used to dealing with legal firms, so are happy to discuss that with you. As I say, we've got another webinar on track changes coming up on the 27th of February. And if you go to our website and to our supporters and look at Quiss, you'll also see that we've got recorded content for the last 3 or 4 sessions. The first one also includes, generally what the different licenses look like for Microsoft. And so if anybody's wanting to see what they've got and what they might be able to upgrade to, then that session should help you. But again, all the details for the Quiss team are there. So if you need any additional help, I know they'd be delighted to talk to you. We're going to send you a link to this webinar once we've just topped and tailed it, and all of those resources that James mentioned. So other than that, just to say thank you very much, James, and all the team at Quiss for providing this. And we very much look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.